Welcome to Cage Minds MMA show. My name is Micah Frankel. The website is cageminds.com. You can keep up with us on social media. On Facebook, it's Cage Minds Combat Sports News. Over on Instagram, it's at CageMinds_CSN. And over on Twitter, it's at Cage Minds MMA. I also have my own Twitter. It's at Frankel Micah, so that's my last name. And then my first name. Got a bunch of great photographers that also work with me. We got some writing correspondents that pop up every so often, and you can support everything that we're doing by buying apparel at nmproshop.com. T-shirts and tank tops still available. We're getting a little bit colder. There will be some long sleeves and hoodies as the winter comes along. Now, to get started today, we'll do what we've done for about the last 8 weeks, and that's touch on Dana White's Contender Series. This week, 4 more contracts handed out. Gotta say, the most impressive was the first round knockout from Armen Petrosyan, getting out Kayla Kozlov in about 4.5 minutes, just under that 4:30 mark. Almost took the whole round, but it was a head kick. Finished with the punches on the ground. Caio Barella, Pereira Rodriguez, and Johnny Parsons also now on the UFC roster. Now, as we move on, we can jump on over to Friday, LFA 116 in Vail, Colorado on UFC Fight Pass. Middleweight main event, Josh Fram, Renato Valente. It was the jab of Fram was the story of the fight. An early knockdown with the left hand. Valente answers back, right hand knockdown, and Fram finds himself surviving ground and pound to end the first round. Regrouped, recovered, played it a little bit safe. Second and third rounds, it was all about that jab, and Valente is pouring blood from his mouth. Great win for Fram. Co-main event, Dan Arjetta versus Rodney Mandala. It's a submission victory for Arjetta. It was a pair of takedowns. Advanced his way to mount. Mandala gave his back, left an arm hanging, and Arjetta, the tough vet, took that arm. Although it was an impressive performance, we can't look away from the fact that Arjetta did miss weight, 2 pounds over the 136-pound limit for bantamweight. But there's some guys that will criticize here later in the show for no effort. Arjetta shaved his head, a beautiful mullet. I mean, a prize fighting kind of mullet, getting in that ring as the mullet's coming back. And he shaved it all the way off, reportedly taking another 6 to 8 ounces off, half a pound or so, trying to do everything he could humanly possible without sacrificing near death to make weight. That's respectable. You don't always feel that everyone is going to every means necessary to attempt to make weight. I mean, there are some means that are extreme, but there are some that are necessary that you're able to take. And Arjetta proved a lot in still trying to take every possible means necessary. In the feature fight, we had a bit of an upset. Pauline Macias came in unbeaten in the LFA cage off the Contender Series. Merrick Mann came in unbeaten. Macias, the great judo, and it's Macias getting the takedown early, but it's Mann doing the better work. Damage from the bottom, threatening with submissions, elbows. Second round ends with Macias on the bottom. Third round, Macias judo toss lands into a scramble, which eventually sees Mann take the back. Macias shakes her off, but is able in the shake off over the top to secure a triangle choke. The submission comes with about a minute left on the clock in the third round. In the welterweight division, Harris Tuludov spends the first round defending the Brock Smith takedown attempts, threatening the chokes all the way through. Second round, still hunting those takedowns. Smith starting to empty out that gas tank, though. Goes for an ill-timed spinning back kick, falling down basically as he's pushed over by Tuludov, who takes the back and secures the finish with the rear naked choke. And the card started off with Josiah Reyes versus Lorvik Acevedo. Reyes catching the Acevedo kick, They follow to the ground. Acevedo reverses, takes the back, is hunting the rear naked choke, but going 2-on-1 in the wrist control. Turning inside the guard is Reyes, who advances to mount. Devastating elbows, gets the knockout victory inside the first round with the 15 seconds, just 15 seconds left on the clock. Now 3-0. Then you had Saturday, where everything was going on at one time. Mariusz Pudzianowski, winner in the KSW main event, first round knockout, devastating, one punch puts you in the ground kind of stuff. So you had MMA in Poland. Not to mention, you had Muay Thai and UFC Fight Pass from Lion Fights. That was also Saturday. Then you also had Glory Kickboxing in the Netherlands. That was also Saturday. Go Kansaki, hammering leg kicks, takes out James McSweeney. A heroic and triumphant return to the kickboxing ring. Not to mention, knocked down twice. A cut that was crazy, looked like half his cheek was falling out. That is what Rico Verhoeven had to survive and overcome to end up knocking out Jamal Ben Sadiq. And the trilogy is now in the books. It's 2-1. Verhoeven, and still your king of kickboxing. It may not be popular here in the States, but when you see the reaction, the reception, the emotion, how it translates through to the crowd, the connection that the Dutch people have to the sport of kickboxing, it truly is that big fight feel and something else to see. At the same time, my eyes were totally glued to the UFC Fight Night going on here in Las Vegas at the Apex, and a main event that we couldn't even get to before there was controversy all week long. We're talking about heading in Paulo Costa, Marvin Vettori, two of the top 5 middleweights, 185-pounders in the world. And I do another podcast. Check it out if you haven't. It's MMA After Hours, part of the After Hours Podcast Network. Also do Pro Wrestling After Hours. Do those with Mr. Michael Carlisle. Michael Carlisle said he felt some trepidation and was hesitant about this fight even happening due to wondering if Paulo Costa could make weight. And it was a big middleweight, but I didn't feel the same. That was my bad. Because Paulo Costa, last week, way before Fight Night, asked for the fight to be elevated to 195-pound catch weight, moving the fight up 10 pounds. To the night before the weigh-ins, it is confirmed across the internet through many sources that the fight will actually take place up a division from middleweight. At light heavyweight, 20 pounds heavier. Yes, more than putting a huge spotlight on the gap between the two weight classes, but seeing that Costa, 204.5 is what he ends up weighing in at. That's as low as he could get. So we go from a middleweight fight to a light heavyweight fight where one guy, it almost feels as if he didn't even try to make weight. Paulo Costa does land some nice right hands, some big right kicks throughout the fight. But Marvin Vettori is moving Costa backwards. When Costa's moving forwards, he's able to unload that kick. He's able to unload that right hand. He's doing well for himself. But when he's getting pushed back, he's offering no resistance, very little in return of counters, and he's, for the better part, covering up from the pressure, the jabs, the aggression, the hooks, the crosses, all three playing pivotal importance for a Marvin Vettori, who I wish would have went to some more low kicks because it didn't feel like Costa was going to block him. He very rarely even blocked the body kicks that Vettori offered. Crucial moment in the fight, Marvin Vettori is poked in the eye devastatingly in the third round by Paulo Costa. For those of you that maybe missed it, weren't in attendance, didn't hear it, between the second and third rounds, Costa was already warned by referee Jason Herzog about the way he was parrying the jab, that he was extending the fingers out instead of up. We should all know it by now as MMA fans. It's up is the rule, out is breaking the rule. The fingers go out, the fingers meet the eye, a point is deducted. Some feel that's too harsh. Some feel that this is a repercussion of missing weight and forcing the fight to go up by 20 pounds, and this was a repercussion. Others have thought maybe a point deduction would have been a necessary repercussion for such an egregious weight miss. Either way, I think that the foul, mind you, the first warning is given backstage. A second warning was given, and then a major foul happened. I feel that referee Jason Herzog acted appropriately in deducting a point. It's 48-46. That's 3 rounds to 2 with the point deduction for Marvin Vettori. Vettori moves along in the middleweight division, and we lose our number 2 middleweight in the world because Paulo Costa is obviously, and even according to Dana White, now a light heavyweight. The fight was good. It wasn't great. It did have its exciting moments. It also, afterwards, Costa revealed that the weight miss was due to a torn biceps. And that just shines a whole nother spotlight on other aspects of MMA, I feel. Obviously, you'd be like, hey, you're injured. If you're injured and you can't make weight, why even take the fight? For many of us, that's easy to say. It's a sound theory. I agree with you. The fighter doesn't get paid. In the NBA, in the NFL, guys get injured, and their contract for that game, that season, it's honored through the team. That's not the same scenario in MMA. You are paid to make weight, and you are paid to fight. If you cannot make weight, and you get the fight adjusted so that the card can go on because you show up fight week heavy, but you're in the main event and there's no other alternative, and you kind of despicably grab the UFC by the short and curlies, I guess your reasoning would be, this is the only way I can get paid. It shines a light on the system that the fighters, almost to a detriment to the sport, to the fan, have to lie at a point like that, how injured they are. A la TJ Dillashaw never probably should have been allowed to compete against Corey Sandhagen with the litany of injuries that he said he was walking into the cage with. But there are fighters that walk in with a litany of injuries, win, triumph, tell us about it, and it adds to that allure, that shield of honor. Imagine if Costa gets a huge knockout and then talks about how he did this with only one arm. I was only firing right arms and right hands and right kicks because, well, I tore a bicep, my left bicep, and I couldn't use that weapon. But I had to take this fight because I had to make the money. It's a whole different perspective. Then again, you should have done everything you could to make weight, and everyone that's mad about that fact is not wrong. Co-main event, Grant Dawson versus Rick Glenn. And we have a bit more controversy in this one. It's a dominant first and second round. Double leg takedown to side control. All dominant for Dawson in round 1. Round 2, it's more of the same, except this time it was an inside trip that got us to the ground. More domination from Dawson. A Dawson who exhausted himself throughout these first 2 rounds. And when I say exhausted himself, he had little to offer in that third round, where Glenn was able to spend the majority of the time on top, sink in a Darce choke towards the end of the round, where the round was short, 10-9 in the favor of Glenn. A dramatic changing point is the Darce choke being locked in, and it's still locked in even though you have a sound thumbs up giving you the observation on the optic that Dawson is out of danger. When the submission is released, there's some hesitation and troubles getting up from the canvas, and it would appear that Dawson staggers a bit. Maybe as he's trying to fully get back up to his feet, his corner pushes him and he kind of wakes up a bit. That's what it appeared to look like, and the judges from that corresponded with the feeling across the board of that was a 10-8 round. So 2 dominant rounds, a near finish, and we have a draw. Nothing to do but remake this one. Alex Caceres, man, the winning streak continues. It's now 5 in a row against Si Woo Choi. It comes in incredibly exciting fashion. Choi cracks Caceres with the right hand, countering a left body kick. Hands down, man down. There went Caceres. Choi hunting the finish, gets over aggressive, blasts a down Caceres with a knee to the face. A point is rightfully taken. We get to the second round, and Choi is coming after Caceres. A big body kick after the body kick that it pushed Caceres all the way back to the fence. He ducks under, takes the back, jumps on the back of Choi, and sinks in the rear naked choke as they hit the ground. One more time, that is 5 in a row for Bruce Leroy. Big knockout came in the middleweight division. Gregory Rodriguez versus Ju Young Park. And it's a knockdown, drag out brawl early. The first round ends with Rodriguez on top after a single leg trip. The second round, the brawl continues. It breaks out against the fence. The right hands from Rodriguez start to get the better, and a right uppercut has Park out cold against the fence. Great stoppage. Mason Jones versus David Awana, and David Awana jumping in on short notice, fight week. Definitely someone to keep an eye on. It's 8 takedowns. It's a jab-heavy offense, and Mason Jones gets the decision win. He remains unbeaten. But Awana, the guy was throwing some massive bombs, definitely did more damage, but was outpointed, outpositioned. Somebody, though, still not to just look over and not to think of. David Awana definitely made an impression on me in this debut. Talking about debuting, back to her right division at 115 pounds, Tabitha Ricci. 5 takedowns, 98 landed strikes in all, gets the decision win over Maria Oliveira. I told you last week it was a surefire knockout, and Jai Herbert versus Kama Worthy delivers. It's Herbert getting the knockout win. Straight right, got Worthy to cover up. Whole lots flying at him, including a big head kick. Left hooks drop Worthy. Right hands on the ground, get the finish. That's 11-3 for Jai Herbert. Great knockout. Jeff Molina versus Daniel Lacerda. That one again ends by TKO. We had a lot of finishes on this card. Full results up at cageminds.com. Molina dropping Lacerda by a right hand. Jumps to the ground, strikes, finishes from mount. That's now 9 in a row for Molina. Now from Las Vegas, we head to Moscow for Bellator 269 heavyweight main event. The farewell for Fedor. Or is it? Or should it be? 45 years old. Taking on the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the division. I thought Johnson, too big, too strong, too good of a wrestler. Youth is on his side. He's coming into his prime. Fedor is almost out the door. What do I know? Fedor and his team obviously knew more because he was faster, and we knew the one danger is the power was still in the hands. The power was still in the hands. Fedor catches Johnson with a left hook while backing up. They reset, right straight, left hook, right hook, knockout, done. Minute and 46 seconds, Fedor Emelianenko picks up his 40th career victory. I don't know if he just wanted that number, and then we actually do sail off into the sunset, and he's happy being a coach. You just took out number 2 in the world. Ryan Bader is coming off of a loss, and he needs to go back to heavyweight to unify the title with Valentin Madovsky. Does Fedor step away because his protege Madovsky is right there and could become the Bellator heavyweight champion, and then, hence, there's not really a need for another rematch? Verdum is still out there. Junior Dos Santos is still out there. And Fedor now just beat the number 2 ranked guy in Bellator. If nothing else, Chet Congo is still there. Chet Congo, Fedor Emelianenko makes sense. That's 2 versus 3 right now in the rankings. I don't know what I'm saying, but the last Emperor may not be done because he surely could still be a big draw. And if he's knocking out guys that are ranked number 2 in the world, who says he's really done? Heavyweight division, definitely call this one an upset. Saeed Soma comes out victorious by TKO. Yes, by TKO over Vitaly Minakov at the 3:08 mark of the third round, because Minakov informs the referee that there's something wrong with his hand. Referee comes in. They have to relocate the dislocated finger. Minakov's ready to fight again. But it was an injury TKO. We can't just reset an injury and there you go. Wish that was the way it went. Let's just go get a couple stitches and keep that fight going. It's a TKO. Soma picks up a huge win. And Minakov looked good. He looked bad. I think Soma gains a lot from this fight. Usman Nurmagomedov makes quick work of Patrick Polita. It's a rear naked choke submission and 4:06 of the first round. Here's another guy probably more deserving to fight for that Bellator lightweight title than the two guys that are actually going to do it. Last weekend, like I said, crazy amount of combat sports. You had bare knuckle boxing. Shout out to Chevy Bridges. Second round knockout, a knockdown with the left hand. Beautiful work from him. So bare knuckle boxing, not to mention Shakur Stevens, that junior lightweight title victory, picking up the WBO belt, his second world title, 2 different divisions. It's amazing stuff. Putting a beating on Jamel Herrig. I had Shakur winning, but I did not think it would come in that fashion. Not to mention, you also had ex-MMA 3, Cody Gibson, beats John Dotson by decision. The length, a massive bantamweight, it seemed to give Dotson some problems. We're talking about with the long kicks coming out and keeping Dotson at bay. Keith Richards on that card put in work, a ground and pound TKO of Daniel Straus. Vladimir Araujo busted up. Nate Marquardt gets the TKO victory in round 1. It was Araujo dropping Marquardt, then flying in on top. Marquardt was able to escape a guillotine, busted up Araujo, ends the round on top. In the second round, the overhand right, a high kick, a 1-2, knocking down and finishing Marquardt. Post-fight interview, Araujo admits that the ground and pound had cut him up, busting him up to the point where he could not see out of his right eye. There was a huge cut, and he said he could not see going into that second round. So he gets the win, but it raises the question, should he have got the win? Should he have even been allowed to continue? In the thought of fighter safety, I mean, if a guy can't see, why should he be allowed to continue? We had the cut man in there working on the cut. What did the doctor say? I don't know if the doctor ever had a conversation. Didn't really look like the doctor got in there to check on the fighter. And I am in favor of more, checks. Seeing if a fighter can actually continue. What we saw with Brian Ortega, giving him the wrong answers, and then the right answers so that the show can go on. I understand this is entertainment, but we're playing with people's lives out here. I think it shouldn't have went on. Nate Marquardt probably should have got the win. Then he loses. That's what happens. Tyler Ray gets the biggest win of his career. The takedowns were on point. He outworks John Doomsday Howard. ex-MMA 3 from Vice City in Florida is where we ended our Saturday night. Head on over to the news. UFC fight announcements. Jessica Ai is out. Cynthia Calvillo is now going to face Andrea Lee. That's flyweight action for UFC Fight Night on November 13th. Leonardo Santos versus Clay Guida. A lightweight bout has been added to the fight night on December 4th. In a bout between ranked featherweights, Josh Emmett meets Dan Ige at UFC 269 on December 11th. Hani Barcelos versus Trevin Jones, that's bantamweight action. Charles Jourdain versus Andre Ewell, that's a featherweight bout. Those two have been added to the fight night on December 18th. Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, that one in middleweight action. Caitlin Chikagian, Jennifer Maia 2, that one is women's flyweight action. And Ashley Yoder, Vanessa Demopoulos, that's women's strawweight action. Those three have been added to the UFC Fight Night on January 15th. Movsar Evilov and Ilir Topiary are going to be Monsor Evlov and Ilya Topuria are going to be facing off at UFC 270. That card has also gained Warley Alves versus Jack Mandalena and Alexa Grasso versus Viviana Araujo. Renato Moicano and Alexander Hernandez, that went in men's lightweight action. It's happening at UFC 271 on February 12th. And Austin Lingo, Jonathan Pierce added to the UFC Fight Night on December. And Austin Lingo versus Jonathan Pierce featherweight action added to the UFC Fight Night on February 19th. Not to mention, I hear there's going to be an announcement about Brian Battle, the tough winner, and his official Octagon debut. Be on the lookout for that one. Bellator has had a huge announcement. Bellator 272, December 3rd. That one back in Connecticut. Sergio Pettis going to make the first defense of his bantamweight title reign against former Bellator champion, the current Ryzen title holder, Koichi Haraguchi. Janelle Lugo versus Tommy Espinosa. Josh Hill versus Jared Scoggins. Those two also at bantamweight. All announced for this card. Not to mention, Keone Diggs is going down to featherweight and taking on John De Jesus. Visalia, California, November 5th. You're going to be hosting LFA 117. And the main event is Ricardo Diaz versus UFC vet Michinori Tanaka. Also in LFA news, LFA 118 going to Burbank, California, November 12th. Leonardo Gomez versus Askar. That one also bantamweight action is your main event. Now this week we start tonight with the Contender Series. 6 fights on this week's edition. Your main event, Jansley Silva, 7-1, 3 wins by knockout. His last 3 wins, all by knockout, taking on Omari Gazin, who's 12-0, 8 wins by knockout. Co-main event, Christian Quinones, 15-3, a 3-fight win streak, taking on Long Zhao, a 12-fight win streak. And if you did not see today, things are heated. Jayed Barsat, who is 10-0, 5 knockouts, 5 submissions, is going to be taking Orion Calhoun, who is 16-0, 10 submissions, 6 knockouts, missed weight by 2 pounds, and these two got heated with verbiage that I dare not repeat here on this show, but they got nasty at the weigh-ins. That's Tuesday. Wednesday, man, am I psyched for this one, because it's Championship Night. Oh yes, it's Championship Night in the PFL. It's the final event of the 2021 PFL. The main event, it's Kayla Harrison and Taylor Gardato battling for the Women's Lightweight Championship. Harrison is a force to be reckoned with, one of the top female fighters in the world. The Olympic judo gold medalist has ran through this tournament 3 first-round finishes. Well, Gardato has went the distance, 3 decision victories, and has done it impressively to me because before the PFL season, we'd seen Gardato on the Phoenix Rising Series one-night tournament make it to the finals against Tisha Tenet. That one was at 135 pounds. This championship at 155. Of course, Harrison coming in as a massive favorite. The co-main event for us PFL fans, observers, followers is one of the most heated rivalries and biggest fights in the making that we've seen. The rematch finally. Magamet Kierop versus Ray Cooper III. The 2 welterweight winners in the past 2 seasons. Magamet Kierop beat Cooper in the playoffs in 2018, 2019. A knee injury took out Magamet Kierop. Cooper gets the title. No tournament last year. This is the fight. Magamet Kierop strikes to get in, to wrestle, to get guys to the ground, to wear them down, to get the submission. Ray Cooper, his wrestling is improved. He is the most powerful puncher that the PFL has, and one of the most powerful punchers, just flat out in MMA at 170 pounds. His path has been destructive to get here. Kierop looked to have tweaked his knee 6 weeks ago in the semifinals. That could play a factor. I like Ray Cooper going into this one. The feature fight, not a title fight, but it's your second chance to see Clarissa Shields, the undeniable queen of boxing, in the cage again, taking on Abigail Montes. Shields survived a grappler her first time out. This time gets Montes. Montes, coming out of that Lobo team, has great training partners like Irene Aldana, Alexa Grasso. Does not matter. She's also a striker going in against a world-class boxer. This one's dangerous. The featherweight championship, to remind you, it's Movlid Kitabayev versus Chris Wade. Movlid, 3 decision wins to get here, including beating Lance Palmer and tournament favorite Brendan Loughnane. That guy, a lot of people felt, is the one that Dana White missed on the Contender Series. Wade, he knocked out Omar Osipov with a head kick, and since then has went back to his wrestling ways with 2 decision wins. This is a battle of who can get on top. The heavyweight finals, Bruno Capozola, 3 first-round knockouts. Ante Gillian, he's lost a decision, won a knockout. He's going to look to make this one a long, grueling fight on Capozola. But I still like Bruno's power. Antonio Carlos Jr., Martin Hamlet, that's the light heavyweight finals. Hamlet wants to get this one down to the ground, wants to be the one on top. He's gotten a victory by knockout, but that one is questionable of the health that Cesar Ferreira even came into the fight in. Not to mention, we've seen Hamlet gas out and get submitted by Corey Hendricks. Antonio Carlos Jr., heavy hands, world class on the ground, but not the prettiest of striking, so there are some holes there. In the lightweight division, your final is Loki Razibayev versus Hush Manfio. Loki, a first round knockout and a decision to get here. His wrestling is underrated. Well, Manfio has went through 3 decisions, 2 of them split, and I tell you, thought Clay Collar beat him. So Manfio, he has some kind of luck on his side. Not to mention on the prelims, Amari Akhmedov, UFC vet, and UFC vet Don Matic, both making their PFL debuts, along with former Bellator champion Julia Budd. This week we also have one championship next gen. The main event is light heavyweight kickboxing. It's a title fight as Roman Kayla defends against Irija Azapor. And then you have the continuation of the Atom Weight Grand Prix. Stamp Vertex, Julie Mizbara, and Itsuki Kurata versus Rit Fugat. Fugat, a wrestler. Ikara, she has 2 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission, and a decision on her belt. Julian Mariza, she has 3 of her 6 wins, I believe, or 3 of her 9 wins, I believe, by knockout, taking on Stamp Vertex, who is world-class Muay Thai. Also on that card, you have an intriguing heavyweight matchup where Kirill Grinshenkov, 4-0, takes on Justin Johnson, 6-0, a former Cage Fury fighter. Both guys come in 3 knockouts, 1 submission. And it's an early morning, Saturday morning for the UFC prelim, starting at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. So that's 7:30 Pacific. Yes, early. UFC 267, live and free as long as you're already a ESPN Plus subscriber from Abu Dhabi. It's in the morning. It's 2 title fights, championship contest. Jan Blachowicz defending his UFC light heavyweight title against Glover Teixeira. That's your world title fight. And then the interim bantamweight title is on the line in the main event. Peter Young, Corey Sandhagen. Dive a little deeper into those 2 championship contests. You have the 38-year-old Blachowicz, 28-8. The 41-year-old Teixeira, 32-7. Blachowicz from Poland, Teixeira from Brazil. Blachowicz, winner of 8 of his, Blachowicz has won 9 of 10 a 5-fight win streak, 3 by knockout, 8 knockouts, 9 submissions overall. His boxing, his power, his accuracy to land on the button to find that chin has been incredible over this win streak. His grappling has seemed more sound, putting in an extra effort in the wrestling room and disengaging from the takedowns. It's been quite the remarkable run, as so has the resurgence of Glover Teixeira. Teixeira, a 5-fight win streak of his own. 3 submissions, a knockout, 18 knockouts, and 9 submissions, 27 finishes of his 32 victories. It's been embracing that grappling, pounding the teeth out of Anthony Smith's head, going after submissions. That's really made the difference in this resurgence. It's hard to pick a winner in this one. I think they're very similarly skilled. Great jabs, great fundamental boxing, and underrated ground games. But there is a higher level to that Teixeira ground game. This could be his night. We could see a new champion. Then again, Polish power has been so devastating. The champion's been overlooked all the time. I'm sitting on a fence hard on this one. Definitely sitting on a fence hard on this one. Interim title fight. Peter Yan. Some thought he never should have lost the fight. Some thought his fight should have went to a decision with Aljamain Sterling. Either way, Aljamain Sterling is not in the equation, not able to compete due to the neck injury. Peter Yan versus Corey Sandhagen. Yan 15-2, Sandhagen 14-3. Yan, former ACA champion, great striking, keeps it technical, likes to work behind his jab as well. He doesn't overexpose himself, but does like to put the pressure on his opponents, and that breaks you down. Sandhagen, big, explosive movements, out of nowhere kind of athleticism. A long jab for being a 5'10", 135 pounder. Yan comes in. He's had impressive wins in this UFC run. John Dotson, Jimmy Rivera. Making Uriah Faber eat his foot and ground and pounding to heck out of Jose Aldo. Well, Sandhagen 7-2 inside of the octagon. Last 2 wins though. A flying knee knockout. A sniper-like wow moment to take out Frankie Edgar. And a wheel kick that continued the descent of Marlon Moraes. The card also has the next ascending lightweight, Islam Makhachev, number 5, taking on number 6, Dan Hooker. Hooker, we all know he's incredible. This is a ballsy, gutsy move, jumping in and taking this fight in place of an injured Rafael dos Anjos. Stylistic opposites. Makhachev, well, he strikes more than his mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's looking to get inside, use his body locks, get you to the ground. Hooker's going to look to stay long, use his jabs, his kicks, probably go to the body, and try to stay away from Makhachev. You expect that Hooker has a pretty decent advantage in the striking, but I think there's an even bigger advantage for Makhachev on the ground. If it plays out and the hype is real, Makhachev should be able to secure the takedowns and be able to get down Hooker and break his opponent down. Heavyweight action, also ranked contenders. You have number 5 versus number 9, Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura. Tybura, low-key, under the radar, 5-fight win streak. Volkov, who's been hovering there as number 5 around that championship opportunity, hasn't been able to get the big main event victory. He's 33-9, 22 wins by knockout. Tybura, a bit more diverse, 22 wins, 6 losses, 9 knockouts, 6 submissions. Fights a bit more in the clinch, where I think Volkov, again, he's a guy that likes to separate. He's going to want to keep this a distance fight, look more to stick and move. Welterweight action, number 11, Li Jingliang. Big power, his 18-6 record, riddled with knockouts, taking on the 9-0 unbeaten Kazmat Chimaev. Took the UFC by storm on Fight Island last year, caught COVID himself, retired from the sport, has gotten healthy, and is back now. Again, the UFC believes in this kid, a lot of hype, and that's why they're giving him somebody that's ranked right away upon his return. You have ranked fighters also in the light heavyweight division. Magamet Kierop, 15-1, 9 knockouts, taking on the former title challenger Volkan Oezdemir, 17-5 with 12 wins by knockout. A bit more experience. This one is going to be a banger with explosions. I mean, both guys devastating kicks. They like to go high and they like to throw wild hooks. Matahibas versus Vieran is women's strawweight action. Hibas number 11, Jandiroba number 12. Both women, incredible ground games. Jandiroba a little more refined with her striking. It's been a year since we saw Hibas bursted onto the scene, had a big 2019, 2020, suffered a loss to kick off this year. We'll see what the time in the laboratory produces. Making his official Octagon debut in middleweight action will be coming off the Contender Series. Albert Duraev taking on Roman Kopylov. Duraev, a 9-fight win streak. The guy hits his wins by submission. Neck crank, rear naked, triangle, north-south, armbar. He likes to do his work on the ground. Kopylov, on the other hand, 7 wins by knockout. That one, again, at 185 pounds. At 170, Ezekiel Zalexi dos Santos, 22-7. And for my money, had a 7-fight win streak, and I thought was hovering around contendership and not getting the respect. 1-2 since I went on that round. Unfortunately, coming off a split decision loss to Muslim Sakaev. And he's going to be welcoming Francis Benoit St. Denis to the Octagon. Denis is a Brave FC vet who has 7 of his wins by submission. We're talking about arm bars, rear naked, knee bar, arm triangle, guillotine. He can get it all done on the ground. Zaleski dos Santos, jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, obviously coming from Brazil. Capoeira is his bread and butter. So that's an interesting stylistic matchup. Going to go way further down the card. Featherweight action. Makwan Amerikani, 16-6. He's taking on Leroy Murphy. Amerikani has been around the UFC. We know about his game. A flying knee knockout. His striking, though, has never caught up to his grappling. He won and gets you down to the ground. 11 wins by submission. Well, Leroy Murphy, 60% of his wins, he has 10 of them. So that's 6 have come by knockout. The Englishman looks to put his hands on you. In lightweight action, the second fight on the card, it's going to be the second most popular fighter out of Kazakhstan, Damir Ismagulov. Yes, he's right behind Triple G. 23-1, taking on Magomed Mustafayev, 14-4. Damir, 4-0 in the UFC, but all 4 have come by decision. He does have 12 wins by knockout. I think the UFC is looking for him to do something spectacular to really get a name opponent. And Mustafayev, 3-2 in the UFC. We have not seen him, though, in 2 years. He does have 3 knockouts, including one over Rafael Fiziev inside the Octagon. His last loss coming off of a split decision to Bad Riddell. So 2 years back, one of these lightweights takes a big step forward. Now, overall, it's a huge week of fights. UFC Fight Pass has a ton of stuff going on. UAE Warriors 23 on Thursday. UAE Warriors 24 on Friday. Fury Pro Grappling and AKA 18 both Friday. Eternal MMA 62 and Cage Furies 102 Saturday. Submission Underground 28 is going to be Sunday. And as I said, local fans, be excited and looking forward to Boxing Fight Night in Las Cruces this weekend. Keep your eye to the websites as we'll have interviews going up with both sides of the main event and a few other fighters. Thanks for watching.